Gitterhoop has never been one to give up. For years she fought for this hiking path and in the end helped make it a reality. The path lies along the border between Austria and Slovenia. But 3 years ago, a fence was built here to prevent migrants from crossing.
It used to be open, always. There was never a fence or guard towers or things like that. Not when Yugoslavia was on the other side, and not after it became Slovenia. Now no one on either side can cross freely, and undergrowth is taking over the path.
Austria's government ordered the fence to send a message, 6 months after tens of thousands of refugees streamed over the border in the autumn of 2015. The government also promised to take it back down again when the situation allowed. But now, armed patrols are a regular sight along the fence, another deterrence measure implemented by Austria's new ruling coalition of conservative and populist parties. It's even put on a major exercise simulating a crisis at the border.
Those were dramatic images. I'd almost call them traumatic images. We're talking about countless thousands marching towards our borders in columns. And the point is that back then, those countless thousands of foreigners didn't stop at our borders.
The right-wing politician is coping with what he calls the nation's trauma by saying never again. Interior Minister Herbert Kickl has set up a border police unit called Puma and has also got the military involved. There are helicopters in the air and riot control vehicles on the streets. Little wonder then that the simulation was called pro-borders. Austria's right-wing extremists have applauded the training exercise, while the government in Vienna makes no secret of the fact that it's against a Europe without borders. It's also no surprise that the people who played the role of migrants in the simulation acted like hooligans at a soccer match. But 3 years ago, the exhausted people who arrived at the Austrian border had come hundreds of kilometers on foot through the Balkans. Umar Khan was one of them, along with his pregnant wife and young son. Now he helps Gitta in her vineyard while she gives him German lessons. Umar Khan is an Afghan but was born in Iran. His parents had fled there, trying to escape the Taliban and the endless cycles of war. But Afghans in Iran have no documents and no rights. They don't have a right to education. When police beat him for no reason, breaking his nose, he decided to risk the long trip to Europe with his family. Umar Khan has helped out at a number of vineyards in the area. One of the vintners would be glad to hire him, but he'd have to be granted asylum first. His first application was refused. He'd like to stay in Austria and is doing all he can to integrate. During our interview, he insisted on speaking German.
I don't sleep well at night. I'm afraid. I always have to think, why? Why did they refuse my application? I have to try again. But that one might also be refused. And that would be it. What can I do?
The new government has cut funding for German classes. Under its program, integration should only begin to happen when someone has refugee status or subsidiary protection. But that takes 2.5 to 3 years. They're fueling fear. You really feel it.
Both Slovenia and Austria signed the Schengen Agreement, which largely abolished border controls within the EU. And the border between the countries is secure for another reason. For the past couple of years, almost no migrants have tried to cross here.
Things are very quiet in the area at the moment. It almost never happens. In the last few months, we've had very few incidents.
To be exact, there was just one incident in the last 3 months. Despite that, the patrols continue along this border fence. Gitterhoop is angry.
This ugly, useless thing is still here in the area, and it's preventing Slovenians and Austrians from growing together more in the region. It's an impossible situation. It's ruthless.
But as Europe increasingly adopts a fortress mentality, for many, fences like these are starting to seem normal.